The examination chamber fell silent as the massive creature was wheeled in on a reinforced platform. Its scales shimmered under the sterile lights, each one the size of a dinner plate, and its 6 eyes tracked every movement in the room with predatory precision. The beast's breathing echoed like distant thunder, and its claws scraped against the metal floor with sounds that made even the hardened proctors flinch. Drav, the Xanthari examiner, stood behind the observation panel, his 4 arms crossed in what his species considered a posture of supreme authority. His chitinous face remained expressionless, but his antennae quivered slightly, a tell that those who knew him would recognize as nervousness. This was the Gareth beast, native to the death world of Krell 7, a creature that had ended the careers of 3 previous candidates. Some hadn't survived the encounter at all. Candidate Lena, Drav's voice crackled through the intercom, his translator rendering his clicks and chirps into crisp galactic standard. You have 60 seconds to assess the threat and respond appropriately. This is the final test for your certification as a galactic scout. Your evaluation begins now. Lena stood in the center of the chamber, dressed in the standard issue gray jumpsuit that offered exactly 0 protection against anything with claws, fangs, or a bad attitude. She was shorter than most species in the Galactic Union. Her brown hair pulled back in a practical ponytail, and she wore an expression that Drav had learned to find deeply unsettling during her previous tests. She was smiling. She tilted her head, studying the beast with the same curiosity one might show a museum exhibit. Then, without taking her eyes off the creature, she spoke into her wrist communicator. Hey Drav, quick question. Drav's antennae straightened in surprise. Candidates didn't ask questions during the trial. They ran, they fought, or they died. This is highly irregular. Do we pet it or roast it? The observation room erupted in confused chittering from the other proctors. Drav's translator struggled for a moment as if unsure it had processed the human's words correctly. What? Drav managed. Pet or roast, Lena repeated, circling the beast slowly. The creature's eyes followed her, but it hadn't attacked. Yet. Because honestly, from this angle it could go either way. My friend back on Earth had a bearded dragon that looked kinda like this guy, just, less murdery. But also those scales looked like they'd crisp up real nice over an open flame. I'm getting mixed signals here, the Gareth beast rumbled, a sound that typically preceded a violent lunge. Lena stopped walking and held up a hand. Hold that thought, big guy. She turned to face the observation window. Serious question, Drav. What did the other candidates do? Drav hesitated. Protocol dictated he remain silent, but something about the human's casual demeanor made him answer. 2 attempted to fight it. 1 attempted to flee. All failed. Right, because those are the obvious choices when you see teeth and claws. Lena nodded sagely. But here's the thing about humans, Drav. We spent 10,000 years turning wolves into pugs. We looked at the apex predators of our world and said, yeah, but what if they loved us instead? The beast shifted, its massive bulk moving with surprising grace. It lowered its head slightly, nostrils flaring as it scented the air around Lena. Easy there, beautiful, Lena murmured, her voice dropping to something softer. She slowly lowered herself into a crouch, making herself smaller, less threatening. Nobody here wants to hurt you, do they? They just dragged you out of your habitat to scare some poor schmuck for a test. Drav watched in frozen horror as Lena extended her hand, palm up toward a creature that could bite through starship hull plating. Candidate Lena, I strongly advise— Shh, Lena cut him off. You're going to spook him. Him? The Gareth beast was an it, a weapon, a test of survival instincts. But the human spoke to it like it was a person, like it mattered beyond its function as an obstacle. The beast's nearest eye focused on Lena's outstretched hand. Its nostril slits expanded, taking in her scent more deeply. Then, with movement that seemed impossible for something so large, it lowered its head until its snout was inches from her palm. The observation room held its collective breath across a dozen different respiratory systems. Lena didn't move. She barely seemed to breathe. The beast's hot exhale washed over her hand, and then, impossibly, it pushed forward gently, pressing the scaled ridge above its eyes against her palm. Lena's smile widened. There we go. Good boy. She began to scratch behind the creature's eye ridge in the gap between its armored scales. The beast's rumbling changed pitch, becoming something that almost resembled purring. This is impossible, Drav muttered. Is it, though? Lena asked, apparently having excellent hearing despite the barrier between them. Look at his body language. The way you guys had him chained up, cramped on that platform. He wasn't aggressive, he was defensive. Scared, actually. Probably hasn't been treated kindly since you caught him. The Gareth beast shifted its weight, turning slightly to give Lena better access to Scratch, one of its 6 eyes half closed in apparent pleasure. So to answer your original question, Drav, Lena continued, now using both hands to scratch the creature, while it leaned into her touch like an oversized cat. The correct response to the threat wasn't fight or flight. It was make a new friend. But the protocols, one of the other proctors began. Your protocols are designed for species that think in binaries, Lena said. Predator or prey, fight or flee, dangerous or safe, humans? We're the species that looked at every animal on our planet and asked, but can we domesticate it? And we're persistence hunters who became best friends with wolves. We're prey animals who learned to hunt. We're social creatures who figured out how to communicate with species that don't even use sound. She gave the beast one final scratch and stood up, the creature watching her with what could only be described as disappointment that the attention had stopped. The Galactic Union needs scouts who can think beyond the binary. Trav, sometimes the most dangerous-looking thing in the room just needs someone to understand it. She paused, glancing back at the beast with a grin. Though I stand by my earlier assessment, if this was a dinner situation instead of a test, those scales would make excellent crackling. Drav stared at the human, then at the beast, then back at the human. In 300 years of administering this test, he had never seen anything like this. He pressed the intercom button. Candidate Lena, you pass. As the examination chamber doors opened and handlers cautiously entered to retrieve the now docile beast, Drav watched Lena give the creature one last pat on its massive shoulder. The human's final words echoed in his mind, and for the first time in his long career, he understood why the Galactic Union had been so eager to recruit humans. They didn't just survive the galaxy's dangers. They befriended them.